What is the most unmannered thing a guest ever did in your home? Probably the time where my parents let a family member stay in my room for a while and they found my stash of money I was saving. To this day, he lies to my face and sticks to his story that I lost it. A coworker of mine said that in the old days in Greece, people often had dirt floors. So people got in the habit of burying money in their floors. Oftentimes you would have relatives stay with you, only to find out, after they left, that they spent the night digging up your dirt floors in their rooms, looking for buried treasure. My roommates and I lived in a basement suite in a house during our second year of university, with the landlord upstairs. The landlord was the chillest landlord who ever existed and was fine with us throwing parties every weekend pretty much. She had rented to a group of musicians 4 years before us and was accustomed to the noise. One time she came down the set of stairs connecting the upper and lower suites to drop off some mail. The door in our basement is normally locked from the outside, so we can't go upstairs through it, but she must have forgotten to lock it back up on her way out. Later that night we noticed that one of our friends, John, had disappeared. His shoes were still by the door, so we assumed he had walked outside barefoot. We didn't really make much of it because he suddenly appeared back half an hour later. The next day the landlord comes down and says that we had an escapee last night. We were all confused for a moment, but then it all clicks for us at the same time. John. She recounted the story of what happened to us. Turns out John had been feeling adventurous and without realizing what he was doing, opened the door to the upstairs and walked up. He made his way to the fridge, opened it and started eating handfuls of pie straight from the tin. Not only was she cool enough to not immediately call the police or put an end to our party, she started talking to him. She asked him how old he was. 19. We are Canadian, so we are legal to drink. She follows up with how long have you been 19? Thinking it was his birthday, which would explain the excessive drunkenness. His answer to that was I've been 19 for 2 years. I'm from Campbell River, a small town in BC, where time moves incredibly slowly. After her laughing at his joke and finishing his handful of life, she escorted him back downstairs like nothing had ever happened. She is a legend. Now that is one cool lady. My mother-in-law decided it was fine for her to smoke in our house after being explicitly told by my wife that it was not okay. I smoked at the time and even I did not smoke in the house. My mother-in-law tried this when we bought our house 12 years ago. She continued to disrespect me and hasn't been invited over in 11 years. Relatives stayed at our house over the holidays and went into our room and drawers. When my wife came home, she asked my wife why does she have so much makeup if she doesn't use them, and proceeded to ask if she could have some of the items she found for keeps. That sounds like something I might try when I was 9. When I was like 5 years old, I went to my friend's house for a playdate and he had a shit ton of action figures. Being a 5-year-old, I convinced him to let me have one for keeps since he had so many. As I'm leaving the house with my new toy, my mom stops me, finds out what I'm doing, and forces me to return it. I still think about this and cringe at what a selfish little shit I was. Back in my bachelor days, my buddy and I decided to hit the nightlife in some bars in Austin. I was never a big drinker and had a few beers over the course of the evening. He was drinking vodka all night like it was water. Needless to say, he was in no condition to drive across town to his place, so I told him he could just crash at mine. Sunday morning and I'm getting ready for church. Knock on the door and ask if he's okay. Told him he could sleep in while I'm gone if he wants to, but he just says he's got to get going and quickly leaves. Get back from church a few hours later and the entire apartment smells like crap. Sniff out the sauce in the guest bed. Evidently the guy had woken up during the middle of the night and evacuated a beagle-sized poop into my sheets, rolled them up, and then continued sleeping the rest of the night in the same bed he had befouled. The real WTF, other than sleeping all night next to a rolled up sheet with your own monstrous juice in it, is that he could have just stayed after I left, cleaned up, and I would have probably never known. Screw you, Warren. This happened to my friend. She has a koi pond in her backyard that her and her husband built themselves. It's a nice little pond in the ground with rocks and a waterfall. They also have a couple of cats. They go out of town for a couple weeks, and one of her work friends takes care of her house. A few days in, this work friend comes over and dumps the entire bag of cat food onto the kitchen floor. Then she decided that the water in the koi pond looked a bit low, so they turn on the hose to top it off. Only they forget to turn the hose off when they leave. She never comes back to the house to check on anything. A couple days later, the neighbor notices that their backyard is flooded and that there's koi swimming around in the yard. They turn off the water and try to catch the koi, but are not successful. The koi end up dying or getting away. Luckily the cats inside were okay. The neighbor calls my friend to tell her what happened. Let's just say that my friend is not friends with her coworker anymore. Edit. I told my friend about this subreddit and how I posted what happened to her, and she wanted me to also tell you that a tree that was supposed to be watered in the front yard died because her friend didn't water it. Put a magnet up to my TV, permanently leaving a discolored spot. He just had it in his pocket. Like, what the heck? We said not to eat in the guest bedroom, and when we went in there, after they had left, we found ice cream all over the sheets. Also, the same people left flecks of feces in the bathroom sink and feces soiled toilet paper on the bathroom floor on 2 separate occasions. Man, how does this even happen? Why do some people find it so hard to contain their crap, pun intended, to the toilet? They literally have to just sit down, do their business and then flush. And unless they've somehow managed to smear it all over their hands, it's not hard to turn on the tap if you accidentally get some on you. My friend's husband peed in the hallway when we were all drunk. He said the bathroom was full and he couldn't make it outside to pee on a bush. Next time I saw him, I gave him a small potted plant with a homemade men's room sign stuck in it and told him now he had a porta potty. The plant died. I pick up friends from the airport only to find out that they've invited themselves to stay at my place. To save money, they also save money by consuming my food and alcohol and trying to get me to split the bill 50-50 when I've had a Corona and empanada, and they had Florida lobster, stone crabs, and those giant fishbowl mugs. No more. You don't have a place. There's a 20 a night hostel down the road. Future mother-in-law started pulling out flowers and vines she didn't like, and to top it off, not clean up the mess she made. My mill does this all the time. Just walks into house or garden, proclaims a plant is dead or a weed and pulls it out to make sure. Husband has finally started telling her off after 13 years. Edit. Thanks Reddit. Surprised by the 1k of upvotes, I showed my husband, to which he said my mum knows a lot of people. A couple of years ago, a friend of a friend was going to be homeless. Decided to let him stay at my place for what was supposed to be 2 weeks, but turned into 3 months. He would throw trash in the floor. Like, directly on the floor and leave it. Walk all over my rugs with muddy shoes on. Smelled like crap all the time. He would clip his toenails in the middle of the floor and just leave it. Worst experience I've ever had. Due to that, I've never let anybody stay at my home ever again. She's actually here right now and just put my mom's homemade maple syrup in the trash. She threw out my night mouth guard once. Please update us after you kick her out. And FFS, go save that maple syrup. Mom invited a family friend over for lunch. Mom said the friend was coming with their husband and 2 kids. They came with 2 freaking families we did not know. The quiet moment when mom's eyes move in silent subtle horror.